You guys should be relatively easy. We did part of it in our warm-up, but all we're doing today is adding and subtracting decimals. We are going to talk about estimating. Oh my goodness, Legend, if only it was on the top of the page and I hadn't already told you 5 minutes before we started the recording. Thanks for being with us today, Legend. So our first review, put one number in each pair, or rewrite one number in each pair so that each has the same number of digits after the decimal point, but don't change the value of the numbers. There's your task. Begin. Okay, this one is one you either get it really quickly or you don't quite understand it, so let me make it easy for you. If I have one with one decimal place and one with two decimal places, how do I make it the same? Put on a 0. That way I don't change the value. 9 and 200 thousandths, 12 and 90 thousandths, and 62 and 1,010 thousandths. All you had to do is put in extra zeros to make the same place values. Make sense? So we'll talk about those in just a second, but one thing that is helpful when you're doing adding or subtracting by decimals is to do a quick estimation. Now I'll be honest, as a math teacher, estimation really bothers me because math is a very precise subject. If I have 2 and 2, I know it's 4 or I'm wrong, right? But estimation can be helpful, and here's where I changed my mind. When I was at my last school, I was talking with one of our other math teachers about estimation, how much I didn't like it, and she brought up that she didn't like it either, but she had a great example of why it's important. She was at the BX, and 2 of our teachers were actually at the BX shopping, and there was a art of clothing that was 33% off. And the lady was like, oh, I'm going to buy this. And the other lady was like, well, how much is it? And she's like, oh, I don't know. I'll find out when I get to the cash register. Why is that an issue, Michael?
Because you're either A, wasting your money, or B,
Or just what? Or just A?
either too much money, or when you do buy it, will find that you don't have like enough money left.
Okay, so your budget is important. You got to make sure you have enough to buy it, right? But the second part of that is also really important. How is she going to know if she's getting the right price if she doesn't have an idea of what she's going to pay? Now, you guys probably have not experienced this, but having shopped at APs for multiple years at this point in my life, because I was in the Army before I became a teacher, I can tell you, APs doesn't always update their computers when it comes to sale prices. So if I'm depending on them to have the right price when I get to the register, I could get screwed out of some of my money. So you got to be really careful. You need to understand what your prices are. Now, to Michael's second point, the budget. There's a lot of times I'll go to the commissary, I've only got like a $20 bill in my pocket. So as I'm going, I'm doing a mental calculation on what I've paid so that I can make sure that when I get to the cash register, I've got enough money in my pocket. Because it is kind of embarrassing to have to go put stuff back on the shelf.
It is?
It is. Trust me, I've done it before.
I do a lot of those.
So, either way, estimating is a good skill to have. And it is actually really good when adding, subtracting decimals, because I need to make sure that my answer makes sense. So this is actually one of the big pieces. We're checking the reasonableness of a solution. So Jenny has a goal to run at least 25 kilometers each week. Her fitness app tracks the distances she runs each day and gives her a summary at the end of the week. The table shows the summary for this week. Round each decimal value to the nearest whole number and then estimate the total. So I want you guys to do that one really quickly. You're going to round each decimal value to the nearest whole. So take a couple minutes. See if you guys can do that one. This one should have been quite easy. All you needed to do is beside each number, look at the tenths place. I don't care about anything but that. So if I'm looking at the tenths place, that's telling me if it's a 5 through a 9, it goes up. 0 through 4, the number just stays where it is. So my first one is a 7. That means that's a 5. A 5 means that goes up to 6. A 2 means it stays at 6. 1 means it stays at 2. 6 means it goes to 2. Once I have my numbers, it's easy to add. 10 and 11 gives me 21. It's a word problem, so I should say Jenny ran about 21 kilometers this week. So that gives us a good starting point to be able to do the math. That's quite a bit.
I have a question.
Technically, you multiply by 6/10. So if I did 21 times 6, that's going to be 123, so about 12 miles.
I have a question.
That is a pretty good run. So guys, I think most of you looked ahead. Who figured out what Samuel did wrong? Autumn? Good. So if you look at it, first off, is 13 close to our 21? This is the benefit to doing the estimation, guys. How hard was that estimate to do? Not hard at all, right? But it gave me an idea where my answer should be. So if I had an estimate of 21 and I came up with 13 and 86/100ths, that's the time to step back and say, wait, something's not right here. So you either double check your estimate, you might have been off there, that does happen sometimes, or realize you need to look at this more closely and realize, oh look, 2 of those numbers I didn't line the decimal places up. He just put the last numbers together. So he basically missed the rule for adding decimals, which the rule is you must line up your decimal places. Your place values have to be the same. Make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Okay, so what did he do wrong? He didn't line up the decimal places.
What are we doing?
Yes. You holler my name, Brock?
Get about 6 feet. I have a question.
Okay, yes.
Question. Why is there a marker here?
Why not? Okay, the next page.
No.
Uh-huh. When you add or subtract decimals, it's important to align the digits in like place values. So let's talk about this. Go ahead and pull out your highlighters or your marking pens. We have a new definition. This is one you guys have probably used before, but I doubt most of your elementary school teachers use this terminology.
What is it?
Karina? So in a decimal, a trailing zero is any zero that appears to the right of both the decimal point and every digit other than 0. In other words, what you have been taught to do, should have been taught to do, I'll put it that way, is if my decimal places don't line up, I put zeros at the end. The official math name for those, the term, is trailing zeros. So those zeros that I put on to make sure that all of my places line up are what we call trailing zeros. Yes, Brock? It is. That's why I'm teaching it to you.
Yay!
Okay? So I can insert trailing zeros to help me align anything. So I want you guys to now go back, find the total kilometers Jenny actually did run. So add that up. And then I want you also to do number 2, parts A, B, and C. So I'll give you guys about 5 minutes to knock those out. Okay, let's go over this. I've got to go back to the other page because I don't have them side by side like you guys. But I'm actually going to go to Samuel's example because he had the numbers right. He just didn't line up the decimal places. So I'm just going to rewrite them with the decimals in the correct spot so we can add these up. Now, quick question. am I required to use trailing zeros? Now, if I understand that the blanks are zeros, I don't have to put a zero there. But I have good handwriting. It's very easy for me to stay organized. If your handwriting is bad, Brock, or you just are not very overly organized, Gio, please make sure you put in those trailing zeros to keep them straight, okay? So I'll put it here just as the example, but I'll be honest, most of the time, especially when adding, I won't do that. All you have to do is now add them up. So that gives me 15 in the first column, carry the 1. That gives me 10, 21, 22, carry the 2. My decimal comes straight down. We've got 10, 20. So 20 and 25 hundredths. Is that close to the 21 I expected in my estimate?
Yeah.
So does that seem reasonable?
Yeah.
Okay. So now I can go ahead and answer the question. So Jenny ran 20 and 25 hundredths kilometers this week. It's a word problem, so we need to make sure we have a full sentence. I think you guys are finally starting to learn that. You guys did better. I didn't take as many points on that last test. Calculate each sum. So before we calculate, is it easy to estimate these? It is. This is about 16. That's 3. That's 7. So 10 and 16. I should get an answer around 26. So then I can actually do the math. So I line up my decimals, 7 and 3 hundredths. And now I'm just going to add. So 8, 10, carry the 1 and bring my decimal over. 6 and 10 is 16. 26. 2608, was that close to my estimate of 26?
Yep.
So does that make sense? That was my answer?
Yes.
Should be good. Our second one, we have 4, 18, 131, 51. So if I do that, that's 22, 73, about 204. Again, the whole key on estimates, it should be quick math, mental math. Now let's add them up. So now 18 doesn't have any decimals. So I put the 8 under the 4. 130 and 6/10. And then 51 and 1/10. Now in this case, I will add in trailing zeros. Just because I have so many numbers, I want to make sure that I get everything added up in the correct rows. So on this one, I've got 7 with a bunch of zeros, gives me a 7. 4, a bunch of zeros, gives me a 4. 3, 6, and 1 gives me 10, so I'm going to carry a 1. 8, 5, and 8 is 13, and 1 is 14. 1, 1, 5, and 3, that's 10. Carry the 1. 204. Did I get close to my estimate of 204? Yes. Is that a reasonable answer?
Yes.
Probably good on that one. Our last set, I've got 6, 126, 7, and 38. So that gives me 132, 177. Let's add up our actual digits, 126 and 19 hundredths. 7 and 236 thousandths. 38 and 3/10. This is another one I'll probably add in my trailing zeros, again, just to make sure I've got all my columns lined up. So I have a 4 and a 6 gives me 10. 1 and 9 is 10 plus 3 is 13. 8, 10, 12, 15. Carry the 1, my decimal comes straight down. I've got 15, 20, 27. 2, 4, 7. Bring down the 1. 177, my decimal is 177. Does that look like a good answer?
Yes.
So, can you see where the estimate can help you? See it, Samuel? See where the estimate can help you? Honestly, it just gives you more confidence in your answer. If my estimate is really close to what I actually add up, you're relatively confident you got the right answer. Questions on any of these? Okay? Good. Let's turn the page. Could.
No, that's. Go to the bottom. For number C, there's 4 numbers. Why is only 3 there?
Because I only wrote the 3 trailing it. Ironically, you notice there and not here or here where I did the exact same thing.
Why does it get its own lines?
You'll live. Okay, our next part. The algorithm for subtracting decimals is actually the same as adding. Now I will add, this is one where trailing zeros are critical, especially if my first number is larger than my second number. So in cases like this, I have to have zeros to subtract from, so you must add in those trailing zeros in these cases. Again, we can do an estimate really quickly, do your estimate, then do the actual subtraction, make sure your answer is close to what you expected. We'll give you guys 4 problems here. So in the starting situation, we figured out she ran 20 and 25 hundredths. How many more kilometers does she need to run to reach her goal of 25 kilometers? So that's going to be a subtraction. Here, does it say I need to estimate? What does calculate mean mathematically? Michael? Oh.
See, I'm getting something good back now.
Oh, good.
Sorry.
Yes.
Calculate automatically means to, for this one here, you're supposed to subtract. So calculate is not to estimate, just to subtract.
Calculate means do the math. So find the answer, the actual answer. So you can still estimate if you would like to. I'd actually recommend it, but you're not required for number 4. Those 3, you do need to at least calculate. So again, I'll give you guys about 4 minutes to finish up these 4 problems. Go. Okay, on this one, should have been pretty easy. The first one, they gave us both the numbers. This is one where our trailing zeros really are critically important. You have to have the trailing zeros because they have to have something in order to subtract the bottom number from. So in this case, we've got 2 decimal places, and I'm subtracting 20 and 25 hundredths. So that means I borrow, if I have a 0 here, I can't borrow from this. So I have to keep going over. I make that a 10, so that I can then borrow from that. So 10 minus 5 gives us 5. 9 minus 2 is 7. My decimal comes straight down. 4 minus 0, 2 minus 2 is nothing. So it's a word problem. So she needs 4 and 75 kilometers more this week. So some type of full sentence using the 4 and 75 hundredths. The other ones, again, the whole idea, make sure we line up our decimal places. So 12 and 43 hundredths. So I'll again need to add that 0 up here so that I have something to subtract from. 10 minus 3 gives us a 7. 1, decimal comes down. 7, 4, 4. If you did your estimate, that was about 460 minus 12. So I knew I should have come out somewhere around 448. 447 was really close. The next one, this would have been about 69 minus 10. So it should be somewhere around 59. So I subtract 9 and 9/10. Again, if you want all your decimal places, go ahead and add those trailing zeros. Not required because now the empty spots are on the bottom. So I know that those first 2 numbers are just coming down. 9 minus 9 is 0. Can't do 8, so I have to borrow. 18 minus 9 is 9. 59, close to my estimate, so I'm getting good. And our last one, this is about 17 minus 3. I should get something around 14. So I subtract 3 and 256 thousandths. Actually, this one I'm going to rewrite so I have enough room. 3 and 256. So again, we start our borrowing and we come across. 4, 4, 1, decimal, 4, 1. 14, I got 14, so that one also looks good. Any questions on any of those? Ashlyn? Questions on any of these? How many got all 4 of them right? Not bad, good. I figured this should be a relatively easy lesson. So today we're actually going to give you guys a chance to start working all of this in word problems. One of the more difficult pieces on word problems is figuring out, am I adding or subtracting? Okay, so we've got 4 word problems on this page. One has 2 parts. So I'll give you guys about 10 minutes. I'll let you work together as a table. Go ahead and solve all 4 of these word problems. Okay, our word problems. This shows the difficulty as we move from straight up adding or subtracting to figuring out in the problem what it is we need to do. This is where your marking of the text becomes quite critical, especially in asking the question. I'll be honest, guys, most of the time the question is going to be your biggest clue as to what you need to do.
I know that.
So Amy finished the first leg of her race in 87 and 924 thousandths seconds, and the second half in 79 and 600 seconds. How long did it take her to complete the entire race? So as soon as I see that word complete, that should tell me something, right? I'm going to do what? Add these. So 87 and 924 thousandths plus 79 and 600ths gives us 4, 8, 9, decimal comes down, 16. So it took her 166 and 984 thousandths seconds.
I have a question.
That's unusual. Okay, Chris completed a 100-meter breaststroke swimming race in 92 and 542 seconds. Michael competed the 100-meter in 95 and 6/10 seconds. How much faster was Chris's time than Michael's? Faster should be your big clue. That's telling me I'm going to do what? Subtract. Okay? So kind of went over the numbers there, but I have to subtract. I'm going to put the larger number on top. So 95 is bigger. And then I'm going to subtract the 92 and 542 thousandths, meaning I need to add in 2 zeros. Gives us 8503. So Chris's time was 3 and 58 thousandths seconds. Don't forget your unit. Faster. Yes.
Instead of putting 156 and I put 2 minutes and 46.
Chrissy.
That works. You converted the same unit to units. Chris's.
Oh.
That's a possessive.
Oh, Chrissy.
Nope, singular possessive. Okay, it's 639 and 1800ths miles from Atlanta to Washington. 881 and 4/10ths from Atlanta to New York City, going through Washington. How much farther is it from Atlanta to New York than it is from Atlanta to Washington? So farther should give me a big clue. What is that telling me I need to do? Subtract. So we're going to subtract 881 and 4/10ths, subtracting 639 1800ths. Again, make sure we have the decimal places. Guys, stop. Geo? No. Especially not while we're recording. So the 4 becomes a 3. 10 minus 8 gives us a 2. 3 minus 1 is 2. My decimal comes straight down. 11 minus 9 is a 2. 7 minus 3. So it is 242 and 2200ths miles further. Part B, the bus goes from Atlanta to Washington, D.C., and then travels on to New York City, and finally returns to Atlanta. How many miles has it traveled? So what am I going to do on this case? Brock? Add what?
From Atlanta to Washington, D.C., so 639.18 miles.
Okay.
Then, since you're going from, what's it called? You're going from Washington, D.C. to New York City, that's the miles further part, 242.22. Then after that, you add 881.4 miles.
Okay, so I'm going Atlanta to Washington, D.C., then to New York, and then returning to Atlanta. So what are you saying I need to add?
629.18.
Okay.
242.22.
Okay.
881.4.
Okay. So why do I need to add this and
Well,
this
you don't really need to. You could just do the miles to New York immediately and then back.
to New York immediately?
You can just do 881.4 plus 881.4 or times 2.
Jaden?
So if you go to Atlanta to Washington, that'll be 639.18 miles.
Okay.
And then Washington to New York will be 232.22.
Okay.
When you get the answer, it gives you a total when you add them, and then you gotta multiply them with 2 because you're going back.
Okay. Or I could just say Atlanta to Washington through D.C. They gave it to me. So did I have to add those other ones? No. Are you all right if you did?
Yes.
You should have gotten the same answer as long as you did the math right. So I have two choices. I could either just add this one to each other or multiply by 2. Since we're doing adding of decimals, I'll go ahead and add it. So that gives me 8, the decimal, 2, 16. So it is 1,762 and 8/10 miles round trip. The key there is I'm going there and back. Okay? Kara's flying to Hawaii. For packed suitcases weighs more than 50 pounds. When she checks in at the airport, she'll have to pay a fee. Her empty suitcase weighs 11 3/10 pounds, and she has to pack all her camera equipment, which weighs 14 2/25 pounds. To stay under the weight limit, what is the maximum possible weight of her other packed items? Okay? So here's our key. We're looking for what is left over. So how are you going to do this one? Brock?
So first, what I did, I added up 11.3 pounds plus 14.25 pounds.
Why?
Because we find out how much that weighs before we can see. And then subtract it from 50 pounds before we can see how much weight we're carrying.
Good, I like that thought process. So I take my parts that I have to take, the 11.3 because that's the suitcase, 14 and 2/25 because I need my camera to be able to record this wonderful journey to Hawaii. So I add those up, gives me 5.552. So I know I'm going to have 25 and 55 already taken out of my weight limit. So now I take the 50 total, subtract the 25 and 55 add my trailing zeros. So I'm barring all the way from the 4, and I got to go all the way across to get that 10 down at the end. So 10 minus 5 gives us 5. 9 minus 5 is 4. My decimal, we get a 4 and a 2. So she can have another 24 and 45 pounds. So everything else that she weighs can only come in at 24 pounds. Questions on anything we covered today? Yeah, we only got 3 minutes left. So go ahead and go to your homework, page 133. Let me again stress the importance, guys. It's second quarter. I've warned you on the journals for a whole quarter now. If you don't have the journals done, I'm not taking the homework. So make sure you're doing your journal entry.
Did you take my homework off?
I didn't check any homework today. We'll check it next time. The practice, it says calculate. Do I have to do estimations?
Oh,
No. Is it beneficial to do estimations? Yes. It's beneficial because then I know if my answer is in the right neighborhood or not. But you're not required to. So you've got 6 problems to do there. Guys, please pay attention. On the second part, she completed a race in 6 seconds behind Will, and they gave his time. If she's behind him, is her time more or less than his?
More.
If it was less, she would have beat him, wouldn't she?
Yes.
So think about that when you're doing it. If she's behind him, her time is going to be higher than his. Okay. Number 3 should be pretty straightforward. It's just the difference in the weight. Number 4, also pretty straightforward. I've got 4 things she bought, so much like the problem we just did. Figure out what that costs. She's got $100. Can she do it? Your stretch. I actually like this one. It shouldn't take you too long to figure out. The key is you have to put one of each of those numbers in every box, and it equals 2 every direction you go, which is only 2 directions. Okay, have a great night, guys.